For years, California Democrat politicians have schemed to ban gas appliances, raise your electricity rates, and force you to drive an electric vehicle. But suddenly, all of those schemes have been put on hold. Coming up, we'll tell you what the big change has been in each of these areas and how we're continuing to lead the fight to preserve consumer freedom and reduce costs in California. I'm Carl DeMaio, chairman of Reform California and a California state representative representing District 75 in the California State Assembly. Now, many of you who've watched this podcast know we have fought for years against the schemes of California's far-left Democrat politicians who have been trying to raise your electricity rates, force you into an electric vehicle, which is far more expensive and far less reliable, and even force you to pay for very costly home retrofits to eliminate all gas appliances from your homes. You see, what they're saying is that they believe we can change the climate, control the climate, and you should pay more because it's good for the environment. Now, none of what they've proposed is good for the environment. I've said long that we've had all these environmental mandates offered to us, imposed upon us in the name of saving the environment. But funny thing, when you actually look at the impacts of all of these do-gooder mandates, they actually hurt the environment. No one trues up the actual environmental impacts of these so-called pro-environment mandates, but typically they're worse for the environment than the items that they've replaced. Natural gas appliance ban, for example, has been studied repeatedly. And not only is it very costly, but we see no real benefit for the environment. In fact, when you replace gas appliances with electric appliances, it's far less efficient from a standpoint of using of energy and actually emits more CO2 into the atmosphere. So the first argument I've always had against these do-gooder mandates, it's not good for the environment. But the Democrats always get their way in California because we have a one-party controlled state. So recently we've seen a mandate to ban all gas-powered cars. By 2035, that we would have to be driving electric vehicles. Very expensive. And again, where's the electricity going to come from? The second thing we've seen is a push to ban gas appliances in your home. No gas stove, no gas fireplaces, no gas furnace, no gas water heaters. All of those would be banned for new construction, but even worse than that, many jurisdictions have been talking about not just banning it for new construction, but mandating very expensive retrofits in the home. Retrofits to remove gas appliances, replace them with electric appliances. Even if the appliances still have a very useful life on them, you'd be forced to pay for all new appliances, rewire your home with much more higher capacity outlets. And of course, again, just like the ban on gas-powered cars, if you're plugging in all of these new electric appliances, where are we going to get the energy? Again, absolute insanity. Oh, and let's talk about energy. Democrats have imposed Green New Deal, or as I call it, greedy new steel mandates on our electricity markets, choking the supply of electricity, forcing us to buy far more expensive and far less reliable forms of electricity. And that has caused California electric rates to be twice double the national average. You're paying infinitely more than you should have to pay for your electricity. And again, if all these bans go into effect and you add so much more demand to the electricity grid, you're going to have brownouts and blackouts. But more importantly, you're going to have a much higher cost for electricity in our state. So that's what we've been fighting at Reform California. And I'm going to tell you about the good news because we're now turning the corner. We're winning the fight, but we're not out of the woods yet. So I need you to go to the website, reformcalifornia.org, reformcalifornia.org. Click under our campaign on that site called Block the Rate Hikes. We also have campaigns to block the ban on natural gas appliances and the ban on gas-powered cars. But the one on block the rate hikes is so crucial because Democrats in California continue to apply additional taxes, fees, and regulations to your electricity bill, causing your rates to skyrocket. We have a complete plan to block those rate hikes, but we need your help to wage this fight. So go on to that campaign, chip in a contribution, whatever you can. Now, think about this. If you're paying $60 to $70 more per month for electricity than you should in California, and that's if you're lucky. Some people are paying $200, $300, $400 more per month for their electricity if they're a higher use household. Chip in $5 a month to this campaign. Put fuel in our tank to wage the fight to bring cost savings to you. Chip in a contribution at reformcalifornia.org. Also, sign up to be part of the campaign. If you go to the bottom of the website, put in your first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code so that you can remain integrated with our fight statewide. We send out our voter guides so that you know who to vote for, whether it's city council, county board. A lot of these bans on natural gas appliances are happening at the city council or county board level. And we vet candidates to make sure that they are freedom-oriented, consumer choice-oriented, efficiency and cost affordability-oriented. You get your voter guide through the Reform California website by signing up. And of course, we have a number of ballot measures from the voter ID initiative to our taxpayer protection initiative that would cap the rate increases on electricity. All of these efforts need your participation. And if you don't know what's going on, you won't know how to participate. So please sign up on that website, first name, last name, email, phone, and zip code so that you are tethered to this growing statewide movement. I call it the rebellion of common sense in California. All right, with that set aside, let me bring you the good news. We have so much good news to share. First and foremost, we are banning the ban. The natural gas appliance ban is being overturned by the Trump administration. Now, we've already seen litigation that we have supported in Berkeley as well as in Orange County go to the courts and overturn natural gas appliance bans. We won the Berkeley case with the help of the Restaurant Association, but we're also now suing with the Apartment Association and other groups, this district in Orange County, to overturn their retrofit mandates. So we are fighting in the courts, but more importantly, while the Trump administration is in office, we're banning the ban that way. You see, the courts have ruled that California politicians, whether state or local, cannot ban natural gas appliances or the provision of natural gas to your homes or impose retrofit mandates. That's an issue that the federal government alone has to decide. And so the Biden administration said, yeah, let's ban those natural gas appliances. And they gave the thumbs up in a number of regulatory rulings before they left office. Well, this month, I joined my colleagues in the state legislature to send a letter to Secretary Chris Wright of the U.S. Department of Energy, Trump's secretary, his cabinet member for that agency, asking them to clarify that the Biden approval of natural gas appliance bans will be overturned, nullified, stopped in its tracks. And you know that President Trump has said clearly that he does not believe in natural gas appliance bans. He feels that consumers should be able to make these decisions without manipulation by extremist government politicians. That letter was favorably received, and we are already seeing the Trump administration move to ban the bans on natural gas appliances. Second, the electric vehicle mandate that Newsom and the California Air Resources Board imposed on all Californians 2 years ago that would have required that we stop selling gas-powered cars by 2035 and go all electric, that has now been overturned. And in fact, the California Air Resources Board has now backed down from that mandate because they realize that they do not have the ability to enforce it. That's because the Trump administration pulled all of the waivers given by the Biden administration to the state of California, allowing the EV mandate to go into effect. So our wonderful EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, immediately fired off a notice to Congress saying that if you want to ban gas-powered cars, we're not going to do it through the EPA regulatory process. Congress can only do that. And so Congress, if you don't act, these regulations get overturned. So I'm so thrilled that they're using something called the Congressional Review Act to overturn all these crazy mandates that California has hung its hat on, that the Biden administration gave out. Great news, so that you will continue to have freedom, consumer freedom, to buy the sort of car that you desire to buy. And we know that this whole electric vehicle push is collapsing. We have auto manufacturers that are just seeing a sea of red ink. They're losing a bunch of money because the early adopters of electric vehicles, they've already bought their cars. And I think some of them are regretting buying electric vehicles, but they bought their cars. But the vast majority of consumers don't want an electric vehicle. They just don't believe in the reliability or the affordability of them. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning of this podcast, they're not better for the environment than gas-powered cars. Net environmental impacts are actually worse. Now let's talk about electricity rates. We've got the electricity rates having a major spike in California, and we're pushing to get to the bottom of it. Governor Newsom constantly grandstands when rates spike, saying, "Oh, I don't know why the rates have spiked. I'm going to order a study." He's done this consistently. It's all gaslighting. It's all designed to make you think that he gives a damn about your cost of living, when in fact he doesn't. He orders a study and then he buries it. Well, the studies all show that it's government mandates and regulations. Well, my good friend Ashley Zavala at KCRA TV has been asking, show me the report. Newsom asked for a report. It was issued to his office by January 1st from the California Energy Commission, the California Public Utilities Commission. This was from an executive order he signed on October 30th, conveniently a couple days before the election. Again, this was nothing more than a stunt, a gaslighting stunt by the governor. This guy's a liar and a cheat. Anyway, this report comes due January 1st, and KCRA says, can we see a copy of the report? And the report's supposed to be, how do we reduce regulatory burdens to make electricity more affordable? What is causing the price spike? How do we give relief to ratepayers? The governor is burying the report, does not want the public to know. I'll tell you, we've already uncovered. It's the Green New Deal, Greedy New Steel regulations. It's a bunch of hidden state taxes and fees in our utility rates. It's this brand new flat rate tax or charge that they're adding to all consumers' electricity bills that are spiking costs. It doesn't take a lot of analysis to figure out why our electricity rates are double the national average. But even when we do get analysis, it's buried and kept out of the public light. So I got to say thank you to Ashley Zavala for continuing to hold Governor Newsom's feet to the fire. What we plan to do at the state legislature is we're going to doge these regulations. We're going to use oversight and outside investigations, forensic accounting, to bring you the truth on these rates. And again, this will all feed into our campaign at Reform California to put things like the Taxpayer Protection Initiative on the ballot to cap your electricity rates, your utility rates, by preventing illegal taxes from being applied on your bills. Go to that website, reformcalifornia.org, sign up to be part of the movement, chip in a contribution, and help us fight. Again, we are seeing some good news across the board. I'm very pleased to see what is going on. One last point on affordability. Newsom has now backed down from controversial regulations that would have added about 53 cents to the cost of your gas per gallon, or 47 cents according to CARB. So the California Air Resources Board, and we covered this in a podcast in the fall, issued regulations a few days after the election. Of course, they always do things after the election because they don't want to be held accountable. Basically saying we want more regulations on gasoline in California, and that would have spiked the cost of gas by about 47 cents a gallon. That's on the low end. Again, we had 53 cents in our study. It could have been as high as 75 cents per gallon just in the first year. So they crammed through these regulations, these air regulations. But then suddenly another office, California's Office of Administrative Law, said that these regulations are illegal, that the state violated its own laws in imposing these costly regulations and put these regulations on ice. So this just came out this week. We are thrilled by this determination. We're actually surprised because usually bureaucrats don't block bad ideas from other agencies. But what this also gives us the ability to do is look at the rationale behind the California Office of Administrative Law. Why did they determine that CARB broke the law in increasing the cost of gas? And if CARB doesn't fully remedy the deficiencies of their decision, we can bring suit in state court to basically overturn these regulations. So we're looking carefully at this. This is really good news that these regulations that we thought would spike gas this year by another 50 cents per gallon, they've been stopped dead in their tracks, surprisingly, by a state agency saying that CARB broke the law. Again, we're bringing you all of this news, and we are fighting the fight because we believe that these sorts of regulations would deal a crushing blow to consumers in California, and that you should not be forced to pay a higher price for your cost of living because of the recklessness of these politicians. Help us fight. Go to the website reformcalifornia.org, chip in, and join. Until next time, I'm Carl DeMaio, Reform California's chairman and a California state representative. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. But before you click away, please subscribe to this channel and click that notification button so you get updated when we post new episodes. Plus, like this video and share it with your friends so that we can help spread our message across the state. Reform California with Carl DeMaio is paid for by Carl DeMaio for State Assembly.